Hey guys, Coach John here. I have another one for you in our hammer series that we're doing, these isometric, these pulsing holds, I like to call them, position. With this one, first off, we're going to talk about the lateral part of the hammer where we're catching the hammer and we're starting to drive this hip away. We really work this lateral slings, we're closing off one side or opening up the other side, if you want to think about it that way, or we're basically like pulling away without, we're using that hip to get there, rather than if we're leaning this way, that's not as strong. And basically if I let go of that, we lost our structure, we lost our foundation, we would get knocked off our feet kind of thing. And that is a leaning or way of overcommitting to that hammer. Just like if I pulled the hammer out of orbit as well, anytime I let go of that, I shouldn't be falling over. I should be able to stabilize. Again, just like in our last video, we talked about, this is like a freeze frame way to strengthen, solidify, and just mentally wrap our mind around that. And we could go right into a throw after this, or this can be a very nice wake up. Personally, I just feel great. I feel way more connected, especially if my back's a little bit sore and spicy. This really just helps everything feel solid. It's like I get that high tension through the areas I want it and more relaxed and open. Especially we'll talk about a little bit of breathing technique when we go in this. Super important to work on some breathing when I hold this. So just holding onto this strap here, attaching it to a high position for me. Doesn't have to be overly complicated. It doesn't have to look exactly like I would in my throw as I'm catching my hammer over here, but something close to that, something that feels that you can simulate and try to bring into the full throw. Again, that freeze frame, bring that frame, make that frame look like that in the whole video if we stop that frame at full speed or relatively full speed. So I'm gonna hold this position, and I like to think about coming around the top, and I'm gonna step into this, and I'm actually gonna start to shift my weight over to the other side. If you look at what my feet are doing here, I'm really coming through this position as if I'm catching it over the top here, pushing this hip out and driving away here, just slightly off of that heel, or maybe I'll exaggerate that a little bit here, off of catching on my right would be this one. I'm going to work the left too, because I do want to strengthen, stabilize that. So I'm off here, slightly behind me here, as it would be coming up over my head, and I can pull into that. I like to do at least one good deep diaphragmatic breath through the nose if I can. Same thing there. See a lot of people, they're just not comfortable with the hammer and they're holding their breath, making this scrunched up face. This is going to also help kind of take off the brakes of the nervous system, allow you potentially to open things up nicely in the throw, more on the hardware stuff, the actual muscle tissues. But on the software stuff is more the neurological input stuff, without getting too complicated into that. It's allowing me, if I get my breath, I'm showing myself, hey, I'm okay, I'm stable in this position. My body's gonna be more likely to commit to that. So again, I'll kind of get up on the toe, pulse and hold, head here, and just nice and neutral, up a little bit too. Don't want that head down in any of my throws, for example. So again, that's the lateral part, and we'll go over the top too, and that's when I'll really focus on my rolling over the top. This is a tricky position. A lot of people either want to arch out, they have a hard time lengthening out. I don't worry too much about this when I'm coaching this, but if I can, in reality, the longer I can be, the more efficient overall. You see some people really can open up over that top position, but this is just solidifying and strengthening some of this, injury proofing myself a little bit too in a more specific Highland Games position. Again, you'll feel this lateral sling really open up. I love this position here. I could do one hand if I want to and just play around with that and think about it more of a stretch, or again, primarily like to use this as more of a pulse. So like 5 seconds of pretty solid effort, or whole breath cycle, and then I'll switch over to the other side and I'll go more here over the top. See, my body doesn't really want to stay in this position, but I'm opening this side up more or less now. And again, I can move around a little bit and play with this. Any of this would be, fair game to stretch and open that the whole chain, the lateral sling, the posterior chain, anterior chain. You're getting all this. You're opening up the ribs. A lot of people get rib strains, neck, shoulders. This is just really going to help. Again, prime the body, get that pulsing, get the muscles online, get the connection with the nervous system. So all the good stuff really can't go wrong. Just a few seconds of that. You don't want to fry your system. Just play within those guidelines. Use that tool. Again, between throws is more of a splicing thing to help solidify it. or as just a warm up, I'll just do maybe a minute of each of these positions and just kind of play around with them, go back and forth a little bit. You don't want to fry things, I just want to stimulate. Stimulate, don't annihilate is what we like to say. So again, this is that hammer wind isometric. We're working on the lateral side, we're working on overhead position. So give that one a try and let me know how it goes.